What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the overall markets. I'm also going to talk about why tomorrow is going to be a very important day as we have the FOMC minutes. And what I see developing on the charts is the market is shifting in a different direction. But just note that I am not a financial planner, so make sure you take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Webull link. If you deposit any amount of money, you're guaranteed 12 free stocks. If you deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 in total. If you deposit $25,000 or more, you're guaranteed 75 of them. The offer ends in just 3 weeks. Anyways, now let's talk about the market. So, in my opinion, guys, I think that the market is looking very interesting. We started to dip quite a bit yesterday as we got that bearish move, but instead of losing our key support, so I mentioned to you all to be bearish, you want to see SPY lose 565. What happened is during the pre-market, we touched that today and then we bounced very nicely. So right now the bulls came back and they're defending. So we came to support, but we did not lose 565 to turn more bearish. I talked about that yesterday. I would turn bearish if he lost it, but so far it has not happened. So with that being said, what do I see for the market moving forward? The answer is, as of right now, we're still remaining more bullish because the buyers are coming back. They're defending it very nicely, despite what the news has been saying. So, what do I see for how the market's going to go? It is possible the market dips a little bit tomorrow morning because of uncertainty involving Israel, as there's been a lot of talk about something that could be happening overnight. But we also have FOMC minutes, and the last time FOMC came out, the market started this rally. So there's a chance the market could try to rally a little bit more. But my view is still the same. Even if the market tries to break all-time highs, I don't believe the rally is going to last much longer. I believe that the market is going to form its top, whether it's at all-time highs. If you break all-time highs, it could be closer to 580, right? I know I have a new target, guys. The market shifts all the time, and it is what it is. But it's very, very tricky. They had a fake sell-off yesterday, and the market's now getting bought back up. But if we do pump more, I think the market will still see a major correction as we get closer to the election. I think it's going to take some time to get there, but my view has not changed whatsoever. The only thing that's changing is my target. We could go a little higher than expected. Yes, it could continue to pump for a little bit longer, but that correction is still yet to come, and I'll talk about why I still believe that. So let's talk about the market for tomorrow real quick. For tomorrow, it's going to be Wednesday, October 9th, 2024. Please note that we have Logan giving a speech at 9:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Then we have Barkin, a couple more Fed speakers like Logan, Jefferson, all coming out throughout the day. And that's because of the fact that we have the FOMC minutes at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So tomorrow, all day, we have Fed speakers. Then we have the FOMC minutes at 2 p.m. We'll see what that leads to. In my opinion, FOMC itself caused the market to pump. The minutes report, so this is just a report on paper that's going to give us more insights about what happened during FOMC. It's not necessarily an FOMC meeting, so please do not mix those up. But tomorrow, tomorrow once the data comes out, this could cause a very, very big move. And my bias is a little bit more in favor of bulls because of how the market's looking. They may try to pump the market higher, also because we have CPI coming out for Thursday. So it's going to be very important. Now, for other pieces of news, the market thinks there's about an 86.7% chance we get a 50 basis point cut and about a 13.3% chance we get a 25 basis point cut right now. We'll see how this shifts. This could change depending on more data. I also want to mention to everyone that there's not really much coming out for earnings until we get to Friday when we have JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, and BlackRock, so be prepared for those. And then for this week, we have NVIDIA's AI Summit. The conference day 2 is going to be tomorrow. So we have this conference continuing tomorrow. Then we have the FOMC minutes for Wednesday. And then for Thursday, we have CPI, not to mention Tesla's robotaxi event. So get ready for all these catalysts. It's going to be very, very huge. Now, one thing about the news right now is the fact that there's been a lot of talk about, Israel launching a strike on Iran after everything that happened, right? The news goes back many, many years for how this is basically developing. I just want to say that with all of this going on, we have to be very, very patient with the way things develop. Now, if Israel ends up striking an oil field or some kind of base, or if it ends up being a nuclear site, we'll have to see what it is. That could cause some dips in the market because of oil going up, just like how we saw that happen yesterday. But that does not necessarily mean the market's going to crash, because the market is continually getting bought back up as buyers are continuing to step in. So from the way I see things, and this is what my view is, I wouldn't be surprised if we kind of gap down a little bit tomorrow and dip just a little bit in the morning. We could be retesting 572 or so on SPY. But then once the FOMC minutes come out, we'll see if we end up dipping or not. There's a good chance we might try to bounce and push for all-time highs. We could even try to surpass all-time highs because of how much momentum is building. I don't think it's going to be that difficult considering the fact that we keep on testing the 570s. If we break all-time highs, I think SPY will get very close to 578, if not 580. So that's what my view is for the time being. So do I think the market is going to tank still? I think it will tank, later on. Later on, once we get very close to the election, yes, I think the market's due for more downside. But right now, the buyers have pumped the market so hard that momentum continues. And if we do dip a little bit and gap down, we could continue this pump later on. What I think is going to happen is we're developing a large bearish divergence. And I think that what's going to happen is we push a little bit higher, we try to break these highs, and then this divergence will pan out later on. So if we continue to break out, look for a dip tomorrow morning to about 572. We could try to bounce off that. If we break past 573.5, we're looking for 575 as our target. If that breaks, I think we go all the way up to 578 to 580, all the way up to those highs. Now, once we're at 580, I think the market's going to find a peak there. And I don't think we're going to go much higher from there. I think that that's where the market peak is going to be based off our fib extensions and other factors like that. And then the market's going to be looking for a very significant pullback later on as we get closer to the election. We're not ready for the big pullback yet. There were times where I thought we were about to start it, but we weren't ready yet because of fake outs. And I think they're going to temporarily push the market to fool as many people as possible. So tomorrow we might dip a little bit. If we lose 569, we could be dipping to 565. By the way, that's going to be our next support. If 565 breaks, we turn more bearish, and then yes, SPY will dump. But we're not there yet. We haven't lost 565. We actually bounced off of this during the pre-market. So from what I believe is going to happen is this. Tomorrow we might dip a little bit to 572, then bounce, and we're going to be looking for an attempt to get up to about 575. And if that breaks, we could go to new all-time highs. Maybe CPI could be another factor as well. But even if that's the case, even if the market does dip a little bit and the market starts pushing to these highs and breaks all-time highs, I'm not turning into a perma bull. I don't think the market's going to pump forever. I still believe in the correction that's coming. I'll talk more about that later on. For ES, we got bought up very nicely. If we lose 57.73, we could turn back down. My gut tells me we might dip a little bit to about the 57.80 area all over again, but then we could try to bounce off of that, and we might be attempting to get to all-time highs again because we have a lot of bullish momentum that's building. And on top of that, with FOMC mints and CPI, they tend to be more bullish catalysts if you look at what happened historically to the markets. So that could try to push the market to new all-time highs. Even if we go to all-time highs, just like SPY, I think ES could push to all-time highs. Then it's going to be dumping as we have this gap to fill down here. We have more gaps below. I think there's going to be another correction phase, and I don't think we're done quite yet. So that's what my view is. For Nvidia, we're trying to push higher. We have a nice inverse head and shoulders like structure. We're looking for an attempt to get all the way up towards this resistance. We have 132.5 as our resistance, followed by 136. So we'll be watching to see how this ends up developing. So watch and see how we end up moving. We're making higher lows right here. We're looking for 136 as our next potential target. And I think there's a good chance Nvidia tries to get up there. We could try to push for 135 to 136 as we have the AI summit tomorrow. But then once we're up there, I would not turn into a perma bull. We could still reject as we get up to those higher levels. If Nvidia loses 130, we could dip to 126.4, but I don't really favor that. I think so far the chart's favoring a little bit more upside. We could be getting up to the mid 130s, then we'll see if we get a rejection or not. For Tesla, I think Tesla's looking pretty promising. So even though Tesla has come down, it's still struggling to break past 247. We have these imbalances to fill, and we have a double bottom is trying to form here. So I think Tesla might dip tomorrow morning. Whether we come down to about 240 or 238, it doesn't really matter. As long as Tesla holds that range, we could attempt to rebound, and this could form a double bottom because Tesla is getting very close to its very, very key robotaxi event. And there might be a nice bounce coming to Tesla just temporarily, especially for Thursday/Friday. The big event is going to be huge for Tesla, could cause a big surge in volatility. So we'll see how Tesla performs forming a double bottom and if this continues to rally to fill many of these imbalances. So I favor upside for Tesla. I think that it's going to bottom soon. Might dip first to 240 to 238, then it's going to try to bounce. And there should be a nice rebound coming very soon once we get closer to the robotaxi event on Thursday. For NQ, we're attempting to push a little bit higher. If we were to hypothetically lose 20,200, we could be dipping back down to these lows where the EMAs are. But with the double bottom like structure, we could attempt to push for 20,400, especially up to where this imbalance happens to be. So I think the odds are favoring upside for NQ, and I think this could be pushing even more. So we'll see how things end up going. For the QQQ, what I'm thinking is we have another gap to fill. So this is becoming very complicated. Let me make this very simple. I'm thinking that what's going to happen is we have a double bottom. And when you look at the daily like this, we're looking quite bullish. So we might dip a little bit to 488s tomorrow morning. But here's what we're going to do. We have two gaps to fill. We have one gap up here. They might rally this back up to 495 to fill this gap. And then we have another gap down here at 475. So we're going to be pumping and dumping. We're going to push to fill this gap in the 495 to 500 area, get very close to 500 most likely. We dip in the morning to start pushing for that 500, 495 to 500 target. And then later on, as we get closer to November, we're going to be dumping to at least fill this gap to the 470s and even lower than that, depending on how things go. That's my view. A little pump to the first gap above, then a dump to the next gap below is most likely what the QQQ is going to be doing. For Aapl, we're trying to rebound. We got back above our 20 EMA as a sign of strength. We could try to fill this gap back up to about 226.8. This could drag the market a little bit higher, but I don't think Apple's done quite yet. We have a double top like structure, and we have this gap to fill down here. Apple may pump a little bit higher, may pump a little bit higher, consolidate, and eventually come down to fill these gaps below. So watch and see if that ends up being the case. For a few more, Palantir remains bullish. It's breaking out very nicely as we had even more bullish news, and so far is doing a great job at holding up. So I wouldn't be surprised if this continues to rally as we're getting more buy signals from the markets. We could be looking for basically 42 as our target. I said if 40 breaks, look for 42. 42.5 could be our next target up. For Supermicro, I mentioned to everyone it might kind of pump and dump. That's very close to what happened. We did pump and dump right here. We're looking for a test of 44.49 tomorrow. If this fails, we're looking for a dip all the way down to 41. If we hold this, we could attempt to rebound. So look for a little bit of a dip and we'll see what the reaction happens to be. For Rivian, we're on a bit of a downtrend right here. We have this resistance to watch for around this 11 area, and our support's all the way down here around this 9.8 area. So we could attempt to rebound a bit for this imbalance, taking us up to about 11, and we'll see if we get a rejection or not on Rivian. But I think that this has potential to try to rebound because it's trying to base at 10. 10 is where it's trying to bottom, so there could be a rebound attempt for the 11s, so watch for that. For SoFi, we look a little bit more bullish. If we lose 8 flat, we turn bearish. But as of right now, we're holding up with the market. We could attempt to fill this gap all the way up to about 8.6 and eventually start pushing for the imbalance fill. So I think this is still bullish as we're making higher highs and higher lows, and we could be looking for an attempt to get closer to 9. But the IWM Russell 2000, we're very flat right now. I think we might just continue to consolidate. If we were to lose 215, we're turning more bearish. If we break past 220, we're looking more bullish. I think that we're just going to consolidate, but we do have these gaps below to fill. So we might try to push a little bit higher. I could see an attempt for 220, but then we will eventually come down to fill these gaps. For AMD is trying to pump with Nvda. We have a big event coming out for Thursday. Might try to fill this gap for 178. So look for more upside with Nvda and AMD pushing together. ARM is following the trend. We have a big gap to fill above. We could be looking for 146. So I favor the upwards direction for this. For coin, I was worried this would be dipping a little bit lower, but now it's consolidating. It is possible it comes closer to about 163 before it tries to bounce. We'll have to see about that. If it breaks 171 when we turn back up, my gut tells me it might be dipping before it tries to get that bounce. For Amazon, we have to try to get back above 183. If that breaks, we're looking for that gap fill up to 185. If we lose support at 180, we're looking for a dip back down to fill this gap. So look for a bounce for 185, and we'll see how we end up going. For Meta remains more bullish. We have 600 as our resistance. If that breaks, we're going to be pushing even higher. So we will see. As of right now, the trend is bullish, but I think it might retest 600 tomorrow, and we'll see what kind of reaction we get. Microsoft dipped all the way down to the daily 200 EMA around 409. If this bounces, we're looking, and it continues to hold up, we're looking for an attempt to get back up to 420 if we hold above 414. So it could attempt to rebound a bit. If we lose 409, we turn bearish, but as of right now, it's holding, so it might try to bounce. And Google's trying to get above 165. As long as that holds, we're looking for 168. If we lose 164, we could be dipping, so we'll see. But as of right now, it's attempting to push. So give this some time. For DJT is trying to rebound. If we hold above 20.5, we're looking for a pushback up towards 22.8. If we lose 20.5, we could be dipping back down. As right now, we're holding above this support, so this could attempt to get up to 22. For the VIX, this is looking a little bit more bullish, but now we have this gap to fill below. So this has kind of shifted things a little bit. So my view is very simple, guys. I am overall bullish on the VIX, but I think there might be a temporary dip first before we get that bullish move. So the VIX has this gap to fill. I think that the market could rally, but causing the VIX to dump back down towards the 19s, maybe go a little bit lower, but then the VIX is going to attempt to bounce back up. So the market might see a little bit of a dip in the morning, and then the market may end up pumping very nicely after the FOMC minutes. The VIX may dump as a result of that initially back down to the 18 to 19 area. But then once the VIX bottoms, it's going to be looking for breakouts to fill this gap all the way up towards the 30s. 36 is coming. So that's going to likely happen in November. As we get closer to November, that's when the VIX is going to be getting that breakout. What does this mean for the markets? The market may dip a little bit tomorrow morning, then start pumping to new all-time highs on the S&P 500 and get close to all-time highs on the QQQ and the NASDAQ. The market's going to try to rally higher, but we're still setting ourselves up for a big rug pull in November as we get closer to November. So my view has not changed at all. The only thing that changed is the fact that I think the market could go a little bit higher. The 10-year is pushing, as we're seeing some Fed speakers. It could push more depending on how things go. And then the dollar index is dipping now. It could dip closer to the 20 EMA at 102.98. And that's once again looking a little bit more bearish as the market remains more bullish. With that being said, I thank you all so much for listening. The market is very crazy, very difficult to predict. If you look at the way the market's moving, guys, check this out. Look how tricky this was. It kind of like dumped here, came back up, dumped, consolidated, pumped back up, dumped, looking as if it was about to dip off a head and shoulders, only to pump back up. So it's very tricky. That's why the market's all over the place. But my view of the market is simple. We might dip a little bit with the Israel news, but then once tomorrow comes, as we get closer to the FOMC minutes, this could launch the market higher alongside CPI potentially. And then once the market launches higher, if it does break all-time highs, it's going to be forming its final peak very soon. SPY could, well, it depends if we could break all-time highs. If we do break them, 580 could be coming, but then there might be a big rug pull after that. So please keep that in mind as we get closer to the election. The rug pull is still on the table. All right, so that's my view in a nutshell. I want to make this video very short and simple, so I thank you all so much for listening. Please have a great day. I'll see you guys very soon in my next video for tomorrow. So take care, guys. Get ready for some big data and have a good night. Thank you for listening, and peace out.